In the second week of our series called The Lion Chaser, journeying through the story of David. David was a man who chased after God's own heart, who's known as the Lion of Judah. David was a man who killed a lion with his bare hands. David also was such a lion chaser that the men who followed him were known. Benaiah was known as a man who went into a snowy cave and killed a lion with his bare hands. He was the lion chaser, and I believe that we should have the same heart, a heart that is after the Lord, a heart that beats in rhythm with His, and also a heart that protects the things of God and fights the fight that He's called us to. So today we're going to continue in our series, and we're going to be reading 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 14 through 23. I really believe that I'm good at some things, but I am very aware that there's some things that I'm not good at. How many people you're like, I'm more aware of my weaknesses than my strengths? Well, one of my weaknesses is cooking. And if we ever have a cookout or a church thing, like we know that's not going to be Pastor Wes's job because that's just not my gifting. And I've learned that sometimes the hard way. I remember throwing a party at our house many years ago, and we were making elk burgers. And it was awesome as it sounds, and they are tasty. Except when you don't cook them all the way through, they're not as tasty. Somebody took a bite and they look, Pastor Wes, this isn't even medium, this is easy. And I think this is raw, and we ended up having to throw them away and order pizza. I learned the hard way. All of you who just got your Blackstone grill and now you're an artist, you can judge me, that's fine. And I'll just come to your house for dinner instead. It happened again this past Saturday on the weekends when I'm home and don't go to work at all in the morning. I make my children breakfast. I may not be a good cook at a lot of things, but I am good at breakfast because I believe not only is it the most important meal of the day, but it's the most important food group that there is. Can I get an amen? Come on, I could eat bacon and eggs every single meal, every single day, and I'd be content. But today I was an overachiever as a father. I was trying to get some brownie points with my kids, so I made what I believe is also an anointed food group in cinnamon rolls. Somebody say amen. And I was excited about making cinnamon rolls. I was invested. It's one of those things when you walk in the room, you smell it, and you get excited to eat it, and you want to put the icing on it, and you want it to have an equal portion so every bite is covered in icing. And you could tell I'm passionate about cinnamon rolls. I got so excited to make these for my kids. I put them in the tighter pan so they'd get bigger like my wife taught me. And I'm so excited about cinnamon rolls to give them to my kids. They're going to love them. And then one of them takes a bite of the cinnamon rolls and said, Dad, I don't think something's right. Crystal takes a bite and says, baby, this is like chewing on Play-Doh. And I got so excited about eating cinnamon rolls that I took them out before they were fully cooked. I got so excited about what was going to happen in the end that I jumped the gun and took part of something before it was ready. And I've learned that a lot of times in life, that's what we do. God, we're excited for your blessing. God, we're excited for restoration in this relationship. God, we're excited that you've called us to ministry, as these teenagers have said. God, we're excited for what you're doing, but if we're not careful, we'll jump past the process of becoming and being built to who we're supposed to be in hopes to receive a blessing. And then when we get there, before God is done working behind the scenes, we get frustrated because we're like, well, this isn't at all what it seemed like. I was so excited to be a part of what God was doing and what He was called us to, but I've learned is just as faithful as God is with His promises, so also is He faithful with His plans. But we must follow His plans accordingly. We must not jump ahead of the gun. And I can't imagine how David felt in this moment. David had just been anointed king by Samuel in front of all of his brothers. And what does he do? The next part of the passage isn't his triumphal entry into the kingdom to go be seated at the throne. His next job is to serve the current king and to play the harp when he gets upset. Let's read it together in 1 Samuel chapter 16. Now the Spirit of the Lord had left Saul, and the Lord sent a tormenting spirit that filled him with depression and fear. Some of Saul's servants said to him, "A tormenting spirit from God is troubling you. Let us find a good musician to play the harp whenever the tormenting spirit troubles you. He will play soothing music, and you will soon be well again." "All right," Saul said, "find me someone who will play well. Bring him here." One of the servants said to Saul, "One of Jesse's sons from Bethlehem is a talented harp player. Not only that, he is a brave warrior, a man of war, and good judgment. He also is a fine-looking young man, and the Lord is with him." This guy was hyping David up just for a moment. So Saul sent messengers to Jesse to say, "Send me your son David the shepherd." Jesse responded by sending David to Saul, along with a young goat, a donkey loaded with bread, a wineskin full of wine. So David went to Saul and began serving him. Saul loved David very much, and David became his armor bearer. Then Saul sent word to Jesse asking, "Please let David remain in my service, for I am very pleased with him." And whenever the tormenting spirit from God troubled Saul, David would play the harp. Then Saul would feel better, and the tormenting spirit would go away. We must be people who not only submit ourselves to the promises of God, but also to his plans for our life. And what we have to do in order to submit ourselves to his plans is we must remind ourselves of a few things. And the first thing is this, that we can never be too big to do small things. David in 1 Samuel, let's read those two verses again, 16, 17. "He was called because they wanted to find a good musician to play the harp whenever the tormenting spirit troubles you. He will play soothing music, and you will soon be well again." "All right," Saul said, "find me someone who plays well and bring him here." In this moment, God was not only unfolding his plan, but he was preparing David's heart for where he would call him to next. You see, a lot of us want the promise without the preparation. I want to tell you this today. God's promises are yes and amen. God will never leave you, never forsake you. He will turn out all things for the good of those who love and serve him, but we must serve him. There's an important part of that passage, that he works out all things for the good of those who love and serve him. So we must do that and submit ourselves to his plans. In this season, God was killing any spirit of entitlement to David. David was anointed king. Can you imagine the motion? Can you imagine his brothers and how they were feeling? "Oh, we about to live up in this castle. I'm getting the biggest room. We're all going to have our own restrooms. We're not taking care of sheep no more." Can you imagine David? "I get the finest clothes and the finest jewelry. I've been stuck out in this field with these sheep my whole life." And when he gets to the kingdom, that's not what's presented. And if David didn't have the right heart, he would have become bitter and prideful and missed out on the promise that God had for him to be the next king. But David didn't do that. He walked into a season that he wasn't expecting, saying, "Not this is too small for me," or "I'm above this," but "God, no matter where you put me and no matter what you place in my hands, I will be faithful." You see, a lot of us, when we walk with Jesus, all of a sudden we get this spirit of entitlement, like we deserve something. And the truth is, we deserve nothing. We deserve hell. We deserve death. We deserve the grave. But Christ loved you so much that his grace is sufficient for your life, and he created a new destiny for you. But what we can't do is let that fill our heads with "we deserve this." What we must do is let that humble our hearts so that we serve wherever we are. There's places, and you know those people, they get to a place and they're like, "This is below me. And I don't know that this is a job for me." I'm going to tell you what'll teach you humility is children. Well, cleaning up after kids. I remember one time my daughter had used the restroom as a baby in her crib, and she all of a sudden became an artist, and you can guess what the paint was. And if you're not careful, any parents been in that situation? You're like, "Oh, you're so creative and disgusting, and I love you." And you walk into a room like that, and it teaches you humility. What we have to do is continue to have that heart, because the truth is, the moment that you become too big for something is the moment that you've stolen God's role in your life, of the one who carries the authority, the one who carries the power, and the one who carries the honor and respect. What we must not do is become too big to do the little things. Never become too big to do the little things in your marriage. Never become too prideful to do the little things in your workplace. Never become too prideful to do the little things for your kids or for your church or for your community, whatever it may be. We must kill the spirit of entitlement within us. Why? Because that's exactly the heart of Jesus. Jesus came into this world, born in a manger, wrapped in swaddling clothes, the one who deserved everything, everyone's attention and affection. And for 33 years, people were persecuting him and wanting to kill him until he died. Yet he didn't come in and say, woe is me, or I deserve this, or when the lepers came to him, oh, you're disgusting, get away from me. He didn't create a life that was comfortable for himself. He walked faithfully with where God put him and said, no matter who comes to me, no matter what's asked of me, no matter what's in front of me, I will do the will of my Father. If Jesus can be the one who spits and gets his hands muddy and rubs it on a blind man so that he can see, if Jesus is the one who embraces the leper who is contagious with a deadly disease, if Jesus was the one who would look at the Roman soldier and tell him that that's the greatest faith that he's ever seen when he asked for his child to be healed just at the mention of Jesus' words, if Jesus would bring himself to such lowly places and quote unquote lowly people and serve them, how much more should we? How much more should we take care of the orphans and the widows? Should we serve? Should we minister to the broken? We can never become too big to do little things. Proverbs 29:23, pride ends in humiliation, while humility brings honor. I want to tell you the place that you are honored the most is when you're the most humble. It's not with the most applause. It's not with the most attention. It's when you stand before God and he says, I know while nobody was watching, you served, I was watching. We must never be too big to do little things. Second thing, say second thing. Second thing, we can't be too busy for God to use us. In order to be a lion chaser, to chase the heart of God, to be who he's called us to be, we can never make ourselves too big, and we can never make ourselves too busy. If you've been here for a while, you know that this is a word that I despise. Because everyone goes around asking each other, hey man, how you doing today? I don't know why we all turned into rednecks, but it happened. Hey, man, how you doing today? Oh, man, I'm just so busy. That's what I hear when people say that. Just like, oh, man, I'm just so busy. Are we supposed to be bored? Are we man, I really just wish I had more. You don't hear people saying that. What happens is our hearts and our spirits become so distracted by the things that consume our time that we forget to spend time with the Lord. And then bitterness and frustration and resentment fills our heart instead of thanksgiving and peace and purpose. And instead of saying, oh man, we're just so busy, what if we said, man, what an honor that God has given me so much. What an honor that God has given me these crazy children. What an honor that God has put me in this workplace environment to minister to these people around me. What an honor it is to be able to serve at a capacity that requires so much of me. Instead of, man, I'm just so busy. What if we said, God, thank you for the blessings in my life that have filled my time, and I honor you and I return to you with my attention and my affection. What if instead of complaining and walking around defeated, we were excited because God has called us to get busy here on this earth. God has called us to go into the ends of the earth and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to obey the commandments that I have commanded you to follow. Jesus has called us to be busy here in this world about our Father's business, doing the work that he's called us to. But if we walk around saying, man, I'm just so busy, then what we turn God into is a drive-through instead of a dine-in. Whatever time I have left, it's just got to be quick, God. God, it's got to be quick. Oh yeah, here's my 5 minutes and I'll just give you my drive to work. I'm not telling you that's a bad thing, but if you're just giving God the leftovers of your agenda, then you are not truly prioritizing God in your life. God, whatever time I have left, I'll give to you. I'm exhausted, and then you come into a place already frustrated and bitter and not giving him your full attention. God should have the first fruit. Say first fruit. First fruit of our time, our thoughts, and our treasures, because when he gets what's first, we submit everything else in our life to him. Don't be too busy for God. Don't be too busy for him to speak to you because he wants to speak to you. Don't be too busy for him to move in your life because he wants to move in your life. Don't be too busy to be used by him to minister to other people because he wants to use you to minister to other people. David had to step out of this whole season of his life of being a shepherd just to be a harp player and an armor bearer for Saul. David went to Saul and began serving him. Saul loved David very much, and David became his armor bearer. He thought it was just a moment, but it became a whole season of his life. Be faithful where you are. God is working behind the scenes. He is opening doors. He's closing the ones that need to be closed. Your job is not to figure out every answer. Your job is to be faithful with what he's placed in your hands. Commit to where you are. What if instead of being so angry when we walked into work, we walked in hopeful that God is going to use us to minister to somebody that day? What if instead of getting home and being frustrated and exhausted and giving our children and our spouses half of our attention, we took a deep breath in the driveway and remembered what an honor it is to come home to somebody. What an honor it is to have friends. What an honor it is to be employed. What an honor it is to live the life that God has blessed us with. But if we become too busy and just keep saying, I'll get to it, then we never get to it, and we start slipping back into the life he hasn't called us to. Does this make sense to anybody? Yes. Don't be too big to do the small things. And don't be too busy for God to use you. I've learned this. All of your health can be a reflection of where your relationship with Jesus is. Because the only one who can heal you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually all at the same time is Jesus. And what we'll do is we'll try to find a different avenue for healing in every other area. These things are important. Yes, take care of your physical health. Work out. Go for a walk. Yes, take care of your emotional health. Stop watching those TV shows that you cry about because they didn't give that rose to that girl that you really wanted to win in The Bachelor. I love golf, but I tell my staff, golf is not an emotional help because it only takes one back swing for your emotions to get worse. And find some areas in your life that can support these things. Yes, increase your mental health. Hang out with people who breathe life into you. Create atmospheres around you that make you healthier. All of these things specifically have places that you can get better at, but the only one who can make you whole in all of them is Jesus. And if you want to be the healthiest version of you that you've ever been, spend more time with Jesus than you ever have. Don't be too big to do small things, and don't be too busy to spend time with him. The final thing is this: don't be too blind to see what is really happening. Don't ever be too big, don't be too busy, and don't be too blind. God prepared David's heart, he prepared his habits, and then he prepared his spirit. 1 Samuel 16:23-23. Then Saul sent word to Jesse asking, "Please let David remain in my service, for I am very pleased with him." And whenever the tormenting spirit from God troubled Saul, David would play the harp. Then Saul would feel better and the tormenting spirit would go away. How many of you would apply for this job? Can you imagine seeing it today on Indeed or whatever website you use nowadays? Here's the job opportunity. Or you saw it. Remember when people used to put things on Craigslist and you were going on faith? I don't even know if that website's still a thing. I just don't go on it anymore because it's terrifying. But can you imagine this job listing? Need of someone to play soft music when I get frustrated. Can you imagine this just for a moment? You're excelling in your workplace, and the principal of your school or the CEO of your organization calls you in their office. Hey, you're doing really good at what you're doing. I'm really great on the output and all the people that you're helping, and you're just a hard worker, but here's what I need from you in this season. I'm having emotion issues, and I'm really struggling with some demonic attacks, so what I need is anytime I get upset, I just need you to play an instrument or play music and just set the mood so that I can feel better. Anybody like, oh yeah, that's the job for me. Like I'm someone's emotional support DJ. That's what that is to me. David was just anointed king even. You went from being told that you would be the most influential, powerful person in the kingdom to now you got to go sit at this dude's feet, and anytime that he is battling against something dark or deeper in his life, you need to play some soothing music to make him feel better about himself. Here's two things that I learned from this passage as the band comes and helps me close. Number one is the power of worship. I believe that worship is a very, very powerful tool. That if you're battling anxiety, you're battling depression, you're battling attacks from demonic spirits, it's when you open the doors for the Spirit of God to be present in your life, will you find freedom from fear? Will you find freedom from addiction? Will you find all of these things? Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So we have to open the door for him to move. Worship is also a weapon. David's worship was the one who fought against the demons that Saul was being possessed by. Did you know that your worship can not only change the very nature of your life, but it can change the nature of those around you? Pray for them, worship on behalf of them, and allow God to use that spiritual weapon to change things in the supernatural on the other side of them. Worship is powerful. Last night, this is a perfect example. I know that I may be a pastor and you think that we don't go through hard things, but we do. Last night at 2:30 in the morning, I woke up and I heard everything. Anybody, you ever had a night where everything was 1,000 times louder than it's ever been before? I mean, I kid you not, every ambulance and fire truck in our town ran right by our house. And that initiates my dogs howling. And when my dogs howl, the whole house shakes. And you're just praying, God, don't let my kids wake up or I'm going to kill these dogs. And God, and they, too specific. And so I heard everything, all the noise was happening, and then all of a sudden you think that the laundry's going, and you're like, I didn't leave the laundry on, but you just hear don't, and then you hear the air cooking on, but you think that something's happening outside, and it's just all of these little things start to become a bigger deal. And the moment that I took a deep breath, and I said, God, I need your peace, and I just turned on some worship instrumentals, and I said, God, I know that you're here, and I need this rest, because we got 4 services tomorrow, and we want people to see you and hear you through me clearly. Help me rest. In a moment, I was out cold. Why? It's not because of some magic trick, not because of anything in the natural, but because we serve a God who moves beyond the natural and in the supernatural. And when there's chaos, and when there's too much noise, and when there's too much stress, and when there's too much fear, and when there's too much panic, and when there's too much uncertainty, and everything we see in the natural drives us crazy, it terrifies us, we serve a God who is above what's natural. When we're looking at the world and there's war, and we don't even know who these countries are, and they're fighting each other, and things are happening, and we're so terrified because what if happens? Remember, you serve a God whose plan is unfolding, and he is faithful to his people and to his promise, and all you have to do is realize there's something bigger going on. When God's attacking your family, when the enemy's attacking your family, when God is moving on your behalf, when the enemy is attacking you, when he's stirring all these things up inside of you and you're like, God, I don't know what's going on. I want to tell you, nothing's done by accident. The frustrations in your relationship aren't accident. The diagnosis in your life is not by accident. All of these things don't happen by accident, because in the same way God is moving on your behalf, there is an enemy who is here to steal, kill, and destroy, and he prowls around. He ain't the lion, but the Bible says he's like a lion, that he's an imposter, and that he wants to pull you away from experiencing the God who loved you, that he sent his son for you. He wants to pull you away from experience the purpose that he has for your life. He wants to pull you away and make you too prideful. He wants to make you too busy, and he wants to make you think that all these attacks that are happening in your life are just too much and it's all an accident, but it's not an accident. He's attacking your home because he's attacking God's people, because he knows that God has already won the victory, that when time is up here on this earth, that Christ will seal the deal. He will return for his people and bring them home. So what he wants to do is to pull you back from that as much as possible. He wants to distract you from God's plan. He wants to distract you from God's peace. And if we're not careful, we'll think that the world's in chaos just because it's the world, when the truth is it's because there's an enemy who is here to attack your soul. But remind yourself that no weapon formed against me shall prosper, that greater is he in my heart than in this world, that I know the God of victory. And while things come against me, I serve a God who goes before me. And when the giants are big, my God is